There's a coach who always said that if anyone ever finds a better relationship than his, who deviates from his instructions, he'll be the first to throw in the towel. And it just so happens I have found two couples who have exceeded this criteria. Two couples who had zero help, who had no program, no relationship coach, nothing to help them out. These two couples are my own parents and my grandparents. If you were to know me on a personal level, you would know that my parents get criticized a lot for not having a normal relationship. Normal typically meaning being together. My parents are married, but they live in separate houses. Primarily, my dad lives in one city to work, while my mum lives somewhere else for her own mental health. There's some true masculinity going on around here. And they've had some toxic moments. They've had some really bad ups and downs. But in comparison to most other people, they're not so bad. And part of the reason they're not so bad is because they have high spiritual standards. Now, some people's spiritual standards are way higher, but my parents' standards in the spiritual level is sufficiently high, let's say it that. This means that if they are presented with temptation, they are more than likely going to refuse that temptation. Nobody's perfect, everyone makes mistakes, but when it comes to the typical stuff that most people experience in their relationships, they're not going to succumb to temptation. When it comes to separation, divorce, etc., that just doesn't typically come to mind. They're very enduring. There has been some verbally abusive moments throughout my childhood and between each other and between my parents. But unlike so many people who think that one time's too much, clearly don't have a strong stomach. I used to think that I don't have tough skin. And some people clearly have grown up in really toxic households, actually toxic households. And I used to blame my mother for my own mental health sometimes, until I read the book Do the Work by Dr. Nicole LePierre. And I found it far easier to forgive my own father for his trespasses against my bodily integrity when I read the book The Science of Being Great. And then I also have my grandparents. And, sure, we can argue that dynamics today are nowhere near as simple as they were back then, but there's still a lot of old people who go through some BS. And my grandparents have remained loyal to each other for a long time, like for, 50 plus years. And it's the same story. Strong, high standards in the spiritual level. Now, this doesn't mean that there's no room for improvement, and it doesn't mean that they're perfect either. In fact, a lot of the time, we can all get under each other's skin. But because we are so respectful, family is a core value in us. What love means to us is to be enduring, to put up with one another. And I think this is what a lot of relationships seem to lack. They seem to lack putting up with one another. To love means to endure. To love means to put up with one another. Because without love, you cannot put up with one another. And so to the big growing channel on YouTube who likes to pretend that he can save marriages at a success rate of 5,000 plus, when his reviews are only at 50, my parents have a great relationship. My grandparents have a great relationship. And by the sounds of it, this coach that I'm referring to, who I will not name, my parents and my grandparents have a greater relationship than this coach who claims to be an expert, but is nothing more than a Tai Lopez entrepreneur.